What if I told you? There was a hooper so dominant, she didn't just win, she erased the competition. A player who redefined what it meant to control both ends of the court, who made defense look like art and offense look like warfare. A player who didn't just carry her team, she built a whole dynasty with her bare hands. A'ja Wilson didn't come into the WNBA quietly. She exploded. From high school phenom, to NCAA champion, to back-to-back MVP. A'ja carved her name into the game with fire and grit. And yet, her story isn't just about highlights and hardware. It's about pressure, about pain, about proving she belonged every single night. Because A'ja didn't walk into greatness. She fought for it. They doubted her shot. They questioned her toughness. They called her overrated. But A'ja, she didn't flinch. She didn't fold. She just went out and cooked them. And by the time they realized what she really was, it was already too late. This is the story of how nobody could stop A'ja Wilson. Before the MVP trophies, before the sold-out arenas, before she became the Aces queen. A'ja Wilson was just a kid from Hopkins, South Carolina, a small-town girl with big-time dreams. Born in 1996, basketball was already in her blood. Her father, Roscoe Wilson, played pro ball overseas. Her mother, Eva, ran the house with love and discipline. But A'ja's story isn't the typical raised in the gym narrative. She didn't even start playing organized ball until middle school. In fact, for a while, she wasn't even sure she liked it. She was tall, quiet, goofy, more into reading books and being around family than chasing clout on the court. But that all changed when she hit high school. At Heathwood Hall Episcopal, a private school in Columbia, she started cooking. By sophomore year, she was unstoppable. By junior year, every D1 program in the country had her on speed dial. Her high school numbers were insane. Over 3,000 career points, nearly 2,000 rebounds. And she didn't just lead, she dominated. But even with the spotlight heating up, A'ja stayed humble. She was shy, even introverted, the kind of player who let her game do the talking. And man, did it ever talk. She was just different, one of her former coaches said. Once she figured out who she was, it was over. But through all the success, A'ja never lost sight of where she came from. She repped South Carolina like it was tattooed on her soul. And when it came time to choose a college, the #1 recruit in the nation didn't chase the bright lights of UConn or Notre Dame. She stayed home, because A'ja wasn't chasing clout. She was chasing legacy. You'd think being the #1 recruit in the nation would make things easier. But for A'ja Wilson, it came with pressure and a target on her back. When she committed to South Carolina in 2014, it wasn't just a win for the Gamecocks. It was a moment that shifted the entire landscape of women's college basketball. But here's the thing. The spotlight? It's hot. And A'ja wasn't your typical alpha. She was still growing into her 6 feet 4 inches frame. Still finding her voice. Still learning how to carry the weight of expectations, from media, from fans, even from herself. She came off the bench her freshman year. Yeah, the top player in the country on the bench. And the critics were loud. Soft. Overrated. Doesn't have that killer instinct. But A'ja didn't lash out. She didn't fire back on Twitter. She just worked. She turned every practice into a war zone. She studied film like a vet. She built up her confidence, brick by brick. And by year 2, she wasn't just starting. She was wrecking people. But even as her game matured, A'ja had to deal with something deeper. Being a black woman in a predominantly white sport, at a private high school, and then on a national stage. She talked openly about the microaggressions she faced, about how she felt out of place, like she had to shrink herself to make others comfortable. I always had to work twice as hard to be seen, she once said. That fire? That chip on her shoulder? It wasn't just about basketball. It was about belonging, about being heard. And as the pressure mounted and the haters talked, A'ja kept doing what she always did. She let the game speak, and it was starting to get loud. By her junior year at South Carolina, A'ja Wilson wasn't just balling. She was putting the whole country on notice. Game after game, she lit it up. Her footwork, clean. Her mid-range, butter. And defensively, she was clogging the paint like traffic at rush hour. But her true breakout? March Madness, 2017. The Final Four was stacked. UConn was still the monster in the room. But A'ja had a different kind of hunger. She wasn't chasing stats. She was chasing respect. And in that NCAA title run, she flat out owned the moment. In the championship game against Mississippi State, she dropped 23 points, grabbed 10 boards, and swatted 3 blocks. More importantly, she brought South Carolina its first ever women's basketball national championship. And if you ask her coach, Dawn Staley, it was more than just a win. Aja changed the culture here, she said. She made South Carolina a powerhouse. After that performance, she was crowned National Player of the Year, Naismith winner, and Final Four Most Outstanding Player. But the thing that stood out most? Her poise. She didn't flex. She didn't scream. She just smiled, hugged her teammates, and soaked in the moment. Because for Aja, it wasn't about proving them wrong anymore. It was about proving herself right. And just like that, the shy, quiet girl from Hopkins, South Carolina, had become the face of college basketball. But she was far from done. The WNBA was calling, and she was about to show the world. That college Aja was just the warm-up. The Las Vegas Aces had just relocated, rebranded, and were looking for a franchise player. Enter Aja Wilson. She was drafted number 1 overall in 2018, and the moment she stepped on a WNBA court, you could feel it. The footwork, the IQ, the swagger. In her rookie debut, she dropped 14 points and 10 rebounds like it was light work. But that was just the start. By season's end, she averaged 20.7 points, 8 rebounds, and became the 2021 WNBA Rookie of the Year. Let that sink in. She didn't just adjust to the league. She walked in and owned it. But the transition wasn't all smooth. Aja had to carry a struggling franchise. She was getting doubled every game. The media, picking apart every miss. And still, she stayed cool. "I don't need to be the loudest person in the room," she said. "My game speaks for me." Off the court, she became one of the league's most powerful voices. An advocate for racial equality, mental health, and pay equity. On the court, she kept climbing. By 2020, she led the Aces to the WNBA Finals. No easy feat. That season, she averaged 20 points, 9 rebounds, and nearly 2 blocks per game. Oh, and she won her first MVP. She was only 24 years old. And yet, there were still doubters. Some said her game was too old school, that she couldn't shoot the three, that she couldn't lead a team to a championship. But Aja didn't bite. She worked in silence, hit the gym, expanded her range, locked in on defense. And while other stars chased headlines, she chased greatness. "She leads by example," said teammate Chelsea Gray. "Every drill, every practice, she sets the tone." Aja wasn't chasing fame. She was building a legacy. And with each season, that legacy got louder. By the time the 2022 season tipped off, Aja Wilson wasn't just one of the best. She was the best. And she played like it. She came back stronger, slimmer, smarter, and with a new weapon in her bag, the three-point shot. Yeah, the critics said she couldn't stretch the floor. So she added that too. And defensively, she was on a different planet. Switching on guards, blocking shots like a volleyball player at the net, calling out plays before they even started. She wasn't just leading the Aces. She was controlling the game. The result? Vegas finished the season 26-10, best record in the league. Aja put up 19.5 points, 9.4 rebounds, 1.9 blocks a night. Oh, and she shot over 50% from the field. The awards started piling up. White heavy checkmark MVP. White heavy checkmark Defensive Player of the Year. White heavy checkmark All WNBA First Team. And then, the final piece. The Aces won the 2022 WNBA Championship. Aja didn't just lead them there. She dragged them through wars. Tough playoff series. Physical matchups. Clutch moments. And she delivered. It was the first title in franchise history. But it didn't stop there. In 2023, she came right back. Put up even better numbers. Locked down another championship. And went back-to-back as MVP runner-up. Back-to-back titles. Back-to-back dominance. She wasn't trending anymore. She was a dynasty. Aja Wilson had reached the mountaintop. But the view from the top? It comes with new challenges. And new doubters. When you're at the top, the only thing left to do is defend the crown. And for Aja Wilson, that's exactly when the storm hit. In 2023, fresh off her second title run, she was expected to coast. To glide into a three-peat. To put the final stamp on her GOAT resume. But instead, she ran headfirst into adversity. First came the criticism. She's protected by a super team. She's not the real MVP. She's good, but not great without her supporting cast. It wasn't just noise. It was personal, especially after the MVP voting. Despite averaging 22.8 points, 9.5 rebounds, and leading the league in blocks, Aja didn't win MVP. She didn't even finish second. She finished third with 0 first-place votes. And the basketball world? Split in half. Some called it disrespectful. Others said it was validation of the overrated claims. Aja, she didn't lash out. She just posted one thing on Instagram. God got it. But behind the scenes, she was heated. That fire that fueled her in college. The one she kept buried under calm smiles and clean interviews. It came roaring back. And then came the loss. In the 2023 WNBA Finals, the Aces fell short. Not because Aja didn't show up, she balled out. But the team got outplayed, and the Dynasty hit a speed bump. Suddenly, the whispers turned into full-blown conversations. Is she still the face of the league? Has her peak already passed? Was the dominance just a moment, or a movement? And Aja? She had to sit with it. No trophies, no champagne, just silence. But sometimes, that silence is where legends are made. Aja Wilson heard the noise. She just didn't need to respond with words. She responded with work. Coming into the 2024 season, she wasn't looking to talk. She was looking to take over. The MVP snub? She wore it like armor. Every missed vote, fuel to the fire. And from the jump, Aja was on a mission. She came out in Game 1 and dropped a double-double in the first half. Locked down the paint like it was private property. Hit threes like she'd been shooting them her whole life. She didn't just play, she dominated. Averaging over 24 points, 11 rebounds, 2.5 blocks per game, she made one thing very clear. You might forget about me, but you'll never ignore me. Then came her historic night. 53 points in a single game. A WNBA record-tying performance. Every shot, buckets, every possession, control. She didn't just prove she was MVP caliber. She shut the whole conversation down. Even the haters had to fall back. I don't know what else she has to do, said Aces coach Becky Hammon. She's the best player in the world. But it wasn't just the stats. It was the leadership. Aja was vocal, direct, pulling teammates aside, holding people accountable. She's the soul of this team, said Chelsea Gray. When Aja goes hard, we follow. And they did follow. The Aces stormed through the season, locked in another playoff berth, and once again, Aja led the charge. No drama, no excuses, just buckets, boards, and that same quiet fire that's burned since Hopkins, South Carolina. She didn't just bounce back, she evolved. And by the end of the season, MVP votes weren't in question. They were unanimous. When the dust settles, when the banners fade and the cheers quiet down, what will they say about Aja Wilson? She's a 2-time MVP, a multi-time champion, a Defensive Player of the Year. She shattered records, carried teams, transformed a franchise. But her legacy goes way beyond the box score. She made Vegas a powerhouse. She gave young girls, especially young black girls, a hero who looked like them. She didn't just change the game. She changed who gets to dominate it. On the court, she's elite. But off the court, she's a voice, a role model, a builder of culture. Aja launched her own foundation for dyslexia awareness. She speaks on equality, on mental health, on being unapologetically herself. She's goofy on social media, classy in interviews, fierce when it's game time. But she's always real. And now, she's knocking on the door of the greatest of all-time conversation. Lisa Leslie, Tamika Catchings, Cheryl Swoops, Candace Parker. Is Aja Wilson already in that room? Or is she about to rewrite the whole conversation? Because at 28 years old, she's still getting better. So here's the big question. When it's all said and done, will Aja Wilson be remembered as the best to ever do it? The scary part? We might not even have seen her final form yet. Because every time they count her out, she doesn't just prove them wrong. She makes them regret ever opening their mouth. This is Aja Wilson's era, and nobody can stop her.